So you can take it ahead, Parvish. I'll be dropping.
Sure,
All the
sure.
best,
Thank you
Devjit.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Devjit. How are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I'm fine. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Okay, let me open your profile. Give me a second. You have experience in REST API, Java, Spring Boot, microservices for client. Okay, REST API from scratch for this J project. Okay, AWS certification you have. So AWS certification, you kind of basics certificate, or what kind of areas you have covered in this?
Yeah, like a cloud practitioner certification it is there, like which all feature we need to implement in the real time scenarios while onboarding from on-prem to cloud. So
So we'll start from Java and then we'll see other areas. Okay.
okay,
So okay. So core Java you have said, you mentioned like 17 you have worked and 8 you have worked, right?
yeah.
So okay. So can you tell me what is a try with resource?
Yeah, so in the normal try catch, actually, we have to close the resources manually within finally block. So if you are making use of try with resources, so actually within that in try, we have to start a bracket, and within that we have to write a statement which actually making use of that resource. So it can be like buffer reader, buffer writer, or file reader like that. So in finally block, if you are not closing that resource, then automatically try with resource will close that particular object. So we don't have to explicitly close it within finally. So that is
Okay.
the advantage.
Java 8, there is a stream API and one other is a parallel stream API. What is the difference between these?
Yeah, actually stream is lazily loaded and it works on one particular collection object, and it makes use of only one particular core. So but in parallel stream actually it works on multiple cores. So based upon your CPU how many cores are available, based upon that it get the system processor, and then based upon that core it will fetch the data parallelly. So actually it increases the performance. Yeah.
So what exactly parallel stream uses internally?
Stream actually works upon collections, and it is internally making use of intermediate operations. So there are a lot of intermediate operations which have been there, like filter method, map method. So those things will
To,
be,
to
yeah.
work on the collection as a parallel, what it uses internally, how it works internally, parallel stream.
So actually, parallel stream will focus upon distributing the task across multiple cores. So first of all, it will take the list of data, and it will check like how many datas are available, and it can be handled by one particular core or not. So if it can be handled it's fine, otherwise if there is like lots of data it can distribute across the cores, and it can complete the task in a lesser time by distributing among the cores. So it will work similar to like stream, like ArrayList dot parallel stream we can make use of. So
There is a functional interface and predicate. What is the difference between these?
predicate is itself a functional interface only. So it is making use of abstract method called test method. So actually it is being used within filter method which accepts this predicate functional interface, and it returns true or false.
What are the memory areas we have in Java?
Memory areas, so they are like a heap memory is there. So within heap it is having like a Eden space is there, survivor space is there. So this is coming under a young generation, like which is newly created object. And then there is something called as old generation. So whenever there is concurrently mark and sweep algorithm will work, and it will try to remove the objects which are not being referenced to by any other object. So during that time actually it will search for that, and if those elements are present it will be removed, but there are certain objects which will be present during 3 4 sweeps. So and then at that particular time after 4 or 5 frequency thresholds it will be moved to old generation. So there actually there is no frequent sweep happens. So this is the process of cleaning it. And There are other spaces as well, like for variable definition. So we can make use, but it is internally it is making use of stack. So where it is actually referencing to particular object. So stack will be work will be over when the execution flow of that main code is done. But the object is,
Where the static members will be stored?
yeah,
Where the static members will be stored?
static members,
In which memory area basically?
and
Okay.
there is certain thing called as a method area as well. So there also it is methods are getting stored over there. So
What is a daemon thread and how it works?
yeah, actually daemon thread is being automatically get started whenever we whenever actually the flow gets executed. So in the background actually daemon thread keeps on working, and it will keep on checking like is there any flow which has been continuously going on. So it actually monitors monitor those tasks. So it shuts down when we are closing the resource and we are closing the flow. And if you are not doing that, then in the backend, actually, daemon thread will keep on running.
The collections you have worked, right?
Yeah,
What are the collections you have used?
yeah. So basically, we have made use of list, we have made use of set, we have made use of map. So these things basically we have made use of.
How the hash map works internally?
Yeah, so basically in hash map, it stores data in the form of key value pair. So whenever the key is there, so key will be having some data associated with it. So it will go through the hashing functionality, and hash code will be generated, which is of 16 bits. So it will not be accommodated within that bucket because the size of the hash map is lying between 0 to 15. So basically we are doing the modulus with the size of the hash map, and whatever data is coming, so it will be pointing to that index will be calculated, and that will point to that specific bucket where that key will be going. So there actually data will be stored in the form of node, which will contain the hash code, will contain the key, and then value and the next node address. So currently for initial stage new node is being generated, so that data new node, next node's address will be stored as null, and then it will be stored in that particular bucket. So similarly all the data will be stored in this similar way with put method. And whenever there can be a scenario of hash collision where for one particular key there can be like multiple indexes that can get generated. So in that scenario it will go to the same index, but the data will be stored in the form of linked list. Like all the nodes will be connected in the form of linked list in such a way that next node's address will be stored in the previous node's next. So like that data will be stored in the form of linked list. And while getting the data, it will get the data based upon the key, and then it will search the value in that particular bucket, like where it is present. So if there can be the worst case scenario, like the data can be present at the last node of that index. So in that scenario time complexity becomes O of n, but generally it is O of 1 only in best case scenario. But in worst case scenario it can be O of n before Java 8, but after Java 8, after reaching a particular threshold it gets converted to red black tree, and then time complexity becomes O of log n. Yeah,
There is a write down array list. Is there a
write down.
copy on write array list?
Yeah, copy on write list. Yeah.
Yeah. Why we use that?
Yeah, because normal array list if we are using, and when we are trying to iterate over that array list and we are trying to modify that array list during the iteration process, so it is actually it will fail fast. And because there is concurrent modification exception, so concurrently we are trying to modify the data while iterating. So to resolve that issue we are making use of copy on write array list because it's fail safe iteration. So yeah, we can overcome this exception.
Multi-threading, have you worked on multi-threading?
Yeah, in the project actually it was there, so we have gone through that part.
You know how to create a thread pool?
uh, so we can create our new fixed thread pool with the help of like executors class. So executors, yes, equal to executors, executor service is equal to executors dot new fixed thread pool we can make use of, and then we can pass the size of the thread, like how many threads you want in a pool. So we can assign that value to it, like 10, 12, and based upon that we can call their separate methods. Like executor service will be having like methods like submit method. So if you are calling submit method, it will take the data and it will process it, and it will get the data, it will process it, and it will be returned back, and it will be stored in the future object, and then with the help of future object we can get the data. So like that we can process.
Okay. So like a new fixed thread pool, there are other two more way, right? What
Yeah,
is that?
yeah, so there are multiple ways, like we can make use of cache thread pool, we can make use of single threaded pool, scheduled thread
Cache
pool.
thread pool. So how many threads it will be there in the thread pool when we use cache thread pool?
Cache thread pool.
Yes.
Yeah, actually it depends upon at the runtime. So there actually in code we don't pass any argument. So actually at the
Mhm.
runtime it will be generated based upon the task. So it will cache it pool at
Suppose
runtime.
I have 100 tasks.
Yeah, so it will
In
create
that case,
100.
what will
It
happen?
will create I think around 100 threads. But that particular thread will work on one task. As soon as task gets finished, that particular thread gets destroyed. So it creates at runtime, completes task, and then gets destroyed. So like that it works. So at the end, when task gets over, all thread will be gone.
So basically, you said like cache 100 threads it will create,
Mhm.
but how it will be possible when you don't have that much node
Mhm.
in your system? System should have that capability, right?
Yeah. So I think at
How can it create? How can it be
yeah. So
possible that it can be?
yeah, at runtime, I think it will check like what is the capability of the CPU. So based upon that, it will create a set of threads based on that, and then it will group the task for one particular thread, and then it will continue working on that task. So like it can work. Let's suppose 10 threads it can create. So at runtime, it will work on 10 tasks one thread. So as soon as it gets completed, that particular thread will be shut down or it's gone. So like that it can work. Like it can group multiple tasks together.
So fixed thread pool is better or cache thread pool size? Thread pool is better.
Uh, I think cassette thread pool will be better. So because at cassette thread pool dynamically creates the thread and the task gets executed based upon like which task is given the priority and all. But in case of fixed thread pool, actually it will create, we will be creating threads based upon our requirement like 5 6, but at runtime, like let's suppose the capability is more but we have not set it that, then it will take more time to complete the task, and there will be like a context switching will happen. So before completing one task it will jump on to another, then it will be completed by another thread, so that thing may occur. So because of that it may delay the process of completion.
But when you use cache thread pool side, your can cause a serious issue, right? Because thread pool, you are leaving all the control on the thread pool, and when this service is working with other, okay, in the same host, okay,
Mhm.
it might cause other like others crash due to long time CPU waiting. Your other services can break, right? Because CPU to total CPU is dependent on the thread pool, right?
Yeah.
So that can be a serious issue, right?
Mhm.
How can it be better?
uh, so by using cassette pool we have to reduce
Yeah, suppose I have 1,000 tasks,
mhm.
okay, and I assign the 1,000 tasks to cache thread pool, right?
Mhm.
Whole your CPU will be consumed by the thread pool. Yeah, and what about the other services are executing on the same host? Okay, no problem. Uh, okay, so
Can we create multiple thread pools for that, like using cassette thread pool only we have to do all the task?
no issue. Um, Spring Boot you have worked, right?
Yeah.
So What are the features of Spring Boot you have used basically?
Spring Boot, actually there are a lot of features like auto configuration features are present, like it will automatically configure the data, we don't have to manually write it. Then there is like a direct Spring Boot application. Within that there are three things: configuration, enable auto configuration, component scan. So it scans the data at runtime, and it checks for all the component classes, and it injects the beans based upon the requirement, like where and all we have to create the object. So there is an inversion of control which has been happening. And there is we have made use of auto wiring feature over different layers like controller, service, and repository layer. We are auto wiring repository and service layer, and we are auto wiring service layer and controller layer, like that we have worked. And then we have made use of Spring JPA feature. So it is like a rapid application development. So it is having inbuilt Tomcat server, so we don't have to do configurations that we used to do in Spring actually. So it is much faster.
So
And
instead of Tomcat, if I want to use some other server, how
yeah,
can I do that?
yeah, so basically we can put that in exclude tag. So we can make use of like exclude tag, and then we can within that exclude tag there will be like Tomcat one, and then we can make use of Jetty in another bean, like we can make use of inclusion tag, and there we can put that.
Okay. How do you check the health of your application to Spring Boot application?
And we can check the health by using actuator. So there will be like a certain URL, and based on that there are certain parameters that we can pass in the URL. Based upon that we can see like what all data is present. So if it is like slash beans, we can see like how many beans got created. So like that there are a lot of things available with the help of that we can see.
What database you have used?
We have made use of Oracle SQL, MySQL. So these
Okay.
two.
How did you connect with the Spring Boot application?
Yeah, so basically we are making in application of properties or YAML file, we can make use of like spring.datasource.url. So and then we can make use of like username, password, host, port. So those things we have to set in properties file, and then we will run the Tomcat server, and then it will connect with the database.
Okay. Have you ever used caching technique?
Actually, in my project, I haven't used much caching, but yeah, we are making use of certain annotations. We can make use of for caching purpose, like at the rate cacheable. We can make use of, and then we can create a map of it, like what all data you want to cache, and then uh, we can write at the rate cache evict, like which all data you want to cache. You can specify it over there, then it will be caching those data. So like that we can do.
Have you ever faced in your application memory leakage issue?
uh, yeah, actually out of memory error I got once. So whenever I think we are not closing the resources, and we are not properly making use of we are not closing the resources, and we are making use of lot of objects, or within a loop we are calling the database again and again. So in those scenarios out of memory error occurs. So basically we have to make sure like we are properly making use of private resources, and then we are closing the object whenever we are creating it. So those things we have to take care of, and then we have to see like how many times database hit is happening. So because database operations are costly, so multiple times it will hit, it will increase the memory. So those things are there. Think with the help of visual VM, we can check like how much is being used, and then we should not make use of static on the collections like list set. We should not make it static. because if we are making use of static, then it will be there in the memory after completion of execution of that flow as well. So it will not be removed by the from the heap.
REST API you worked, so you know what is
Hello.
@qualifier?
Yeah, actually, Android qualifier, actually, if there are multiple classes which is implementing that interface, so we have to tell to the Spring container, like which particular class you want to qualify first to get injected at runtime. So within Android qualifier, we have to explicitly write that class name within double quotes. Then we can tell to container, Spring container.
What is the difference between path variable and the query parameter?
Uh, Path variable, actually we are specifying based upon the specific dynamic id. So let's suppose this localhost 800 slash api slash, we are passing the id in a dynamic format, like in
Mhm.
curly braces. So there we can make use of path variable to annotate that id. And
Mhm.
then query parameter, I think it can be in the form of a key value pair, and it will be passed in the request only, similar to path variable, but uh, we can query it based upon the data, like key in the form of key value pair. We can set it in the URL.
So suppose you have a scenario where you need to verify the password, okay, and for that you need to create a API.
Okay.
Okay. How you will do that? What basically uh, secure and um, basically you can say secure API you will create, how you will secure your password, and you need to verify that also, that password.
Uh, I think we can create our own. We can inject a dependency in the POM file like Spring Security, and then we can create a separate configuration class. So and then we can extend like web security configuration adapter class, and then within that we can create one separate validator package for doing the validation, like what all data is coming from the request. And then we can make use of annotation like @validator over the class, and then within that parameter we can write @valid, and then we can give the condition based upon that, like if all.
Your voice is not.
Hello. Hello.
I cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, it's very slow.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now at least little.
Okay. So till what point you heard? So you are able to hear me, right?
Yes, yes. Now I can hear you.
Yeah. So basically, we can make use of added validated annotation over the class, and then we can make use of added valid in the method, in the request method in the controller layer, and then we can create, which I told you already. I think we can
Now, how you will pass the password to the request? First thing.
password to the request. Okay.
You understood my question, right?
Mm-hmm.
You to verify the password first, you have to send that password to the API, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How you will send it? What basic approach you will use? And that is a secure approach, or that should be, because it is password, right?
Mm-hmm.
It should be secure.
Yeah.
How you will do that? What approach you will use?
I think we can create a configuration class for that, and then we can extend like a Spring Web Security Configuration Adapter class. Then we can check like if it is a password. Then we can hash it, and we can encrypt that password, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can follow an encryption and decryption process. So whenever that password is coming, we can encrypt that, and then I think with the help of salt mechanism is there. With the help of that, we can decrypt that the hashed password,
Mhm.
and then we can check for forward. Like whenever we are using, we have to make sure that it is encrypted, and then we have to decrypt it. So like that, we can make use of.
Okay. Have you ever worked on any encryption decryption algorithm?
Which algorithm?
Any encryption decryption?
No, actually, in depth, I haven't worked on that.
Do you know authentication authorization, how it works?
Yeah, actually, authentication is happening. So basically, we are making use of like JSON web token. So in that, actually, the data is coming from the UI. So let's suppose some username and password is coming. So it is going to the authentication server, and authentication server generates the token key, and there is a public access token which got generated, which was used to verify the request which is being hit, and it verifies the data from the authentication server which token got generated and the actual public access token. So it actually verifies that whether it's a same user or not. If it is a same user, then it is being passed the data, the token data is being passed as the header, and then it is signature gets verified at the API gateway level. And if the signature gets verified, then the request gets routed to that particular controller endpoint, and then the response gets calculated and gets returned back. So this is the authentication process. And for authorization, actually, there are certain scenario like we are authenticated to get into that URL, but there are certain websites that we are not authorized to enter, so it requires higher level authentication. So in that scenario, authorization actually works. So few members are
Mhm.
given admin role, few members are given user role. So those who are given user role, they are not given admin role. So those are the authorizations that we can do.
Okay. API Hibernate is ORM tool. Have you?
Yeah, Spring JP I have made use of.
So Spring JPA worked. Hibernate you have not used, right?
Not that much. Actually, in initial companies I think I've used, but after that we have made use of Spring JPA. So it is actually the specification. So internally it is running Hibernate queries only. Yeah.
What are the entities? There APA.
uh, what are all entities? Entity is the layer which is present in Java, with the help of which we are mapping the field values with the database column values. So entity layer actually helps in mapping with DB. So we can write at that entity taking from Jakarta or persistence API, and
What is the properties of these entities?
uh, and that entity actually it is a part of Lombok. So basically the help of that, it helps in mapping the field. Actually, whatever field data is present at entity level, it maps with the database level.
But
So
there are some properties, right, of these entities. Entity.
yeah, so basically we can have multiple annotations for specifying the field values. Like it should be not null, then at the rate not null we can do. Then we can have added ID. We can generate the IDs with the help of annotation with proper strategy, generation type dot auto. Those things we can do. Then the
What is
class
the work of entity manager?
uh, entity manager. I think it manages the entity object creation. So whenever the object will get created, it actually goes through the entity manager part, and then it uh, maps the data at the DB layer, and it checks the configuration, and then after that it returns the data. I think it's an
What are the
internal.
basic
Yeah.
what are the basic requirements that the entity class has.
Basic requirements.
Hmm.
Uh, Entity.
What is required for the basically what is required for the entity class?
So you're talking about
Basic
accurate entity class or normal entity class?
normal entity class.
So
What is the basic requirement?
so that entity
Like what
class.
what are the things it should have? Suppose when you create an entity class,
Mhm. Actually,
how what are the things is required to create an entity class?
yeah, actually it should have a primary key. For that, we have to write at ID. For that, which is important. Then that entity class needs to implement a serializable interface, so that while doing the deserialization, it matches the version UID, so that it confirms like this is the object that we are going to inject at runtime. Then there will be like at the rate
Can that class be final or not?
entity class.
Yes.
Uh, no, I think we can't make that final because we are saving
Mhm.
the data, we are making changes on those fields. So we can't make
So
it final.
and what is the annotation is required to make the entity class?
At the rate entity is there.
Okay.
And there are various strategies as well, like table per class strategy. There are various strategies we can implement. And
Mm. NoSQL you have not worked.
no, I haven't got chance to work. I'm learning parallelly, but in real time project, I haven't got chance actually.
You know what is basic of my like NoSQL like
What is?
uh, your,
Can you repeat the question? What is?
uh, what is the basic things of Mongo DB like how how the data is stored
Yeah, so actually
in
there is
MongoDB.
yeah, so actually in DB, in case of Mongo DB, there is different scenario. So in MySQL or relationship based approach, so there is certain thing called as table. So, but here we are making use of collection. So here it is not pointing to any other. There is no schema creation and there is no dependency on one table with the help of foreign key. So it is actually faster. It is more faster and it is more secured as well. And and it can have like multiple field values. So there actually it is a column and here it is called as field. And here we can add the data as well, we can modify the column data as well. And with the help of commands we can add columns later as well, but in MySQL it's not possible. We have to add data corresponding to the existing column present. And
Mhm. Microservices you have worked, right?
yeah.
So what are the design patterns you have used in Microservices?
There are various design pattern available. Like for handling distributed transactions, we can make use of Saga design pattern. So there can be like for that actually there are multiple events associated for actually properly doing the rollback mechanism. So we can make use of Saga design pattern. So that we have made use of.
Why we use the circuit pattern?
Yeah, circuit breaker design pattern is being used of when there is like multiple internal calls happening within microservices, and let's suppose the third or fourth call is getting failed again and again. So in that scenario, circuit breaker design pattern is helpful. So in the YAML file we can set the a number of retry attempts, like how many times you want to attempt to call that microservice. So we can set it like 3. So after 3, if we are not getting status 200, then we can return a default message like that service is down, so that the current flow doesn't get stopped.
And what is the API gateway and how this work?
API gateway actually adds a layer of security between the UI and our control and our endpoint, actually REST API endpoint. So basically it checks for security purpose, like what all data is coming is actually secure or not. So in our HSBC project we have made use of mule actually. So in case of mule we are checking the URL part and we are mapping it, and we are giving a different URL and then we are passing it back to the actual endpoint. So like that we can modify the URLs as well. So whatever URL is present in the UI, and during authentication process also it generates a token, so we can validate that token with the public access token, so that the signature gets verified. So API gateway verifies the signature of that request as well before allowing that request to go back to particular controller endpoint. Yeah.
Any like unit testing you have about, right?
Yeah, unit testing I have worked.
Mockito.
Yeah.
What is different between Mockito and Power Mockito?
As far as I remember, actually, Mockito, there is no method with the help of which it can mock static methods, and with the help of Power Mockito, we can mock static methods as well. Yeah, those things I can see. I think Power Mockito is having certain enhanced feature which Mockito doesn't have. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, apart from Java, have you worked on Angular or something else like Node.js or Angular?
I haven't got much chance to work there actually. UI part. I mainly work
Only
on the backend.
only backend.
Yeah.
Cloud? Have you worked on cloud? Like AWS or
Actually, in our project, there is a separate team who is handling the Azure. So actually, we are working, seeing like what all things they are configuring. So they are setting up some proxies. They are configuring the endpoint data, and then they are moving the data from on-prem to cloud. So those configuration setups actually we are seeing. So there were actually different group of people who actually works there.
have you ever created ECS instance?
Uh, in project actually I haven't created, and Amazon AWS I think I've created long back. So I think we have to log into Amazon cloud URL, and then there we can there is an option to set all the data, what all data you want to set it up for creating ECS, and then by creating there is an option to create that, then it will create an ECS instance.
Have you worked with S3 or CloudFront? S3 bucket or CloudFront?
Yeah, actually, it is basically used for storing the data for long-term duration. It is having 99.99% 6 nines of durability is there. So, uh,
CloudFront?
uh, CloudFront actually uh, it monitors the logs, and it checks the data, like whatever changes has been happening. So it continuously monitors our changes from the logging perspective as well as from the security perspective.
So you have not ever created ECS instance, right?
No, in project I haven't created real term project.
Okay. Code build and code pipeline. You know what is that?
Uh, Code build.
Yeah, code build, code pipeline.
We have made use of Jenkins for doing the build part actually. So
Okay.
script was already written. So basically we were making use of like that URL by giving the environment and the branch name, and then the build process gets executed. So after that,
Lambda. Have you ever worked with AWS Lambda?
uh, no, I haven't got chance actually. It is for basically for serverless computing. So it is basically
Mm-hmm.
for developers where they will write the code and then they can upload it directly to cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, is the IAM roles and permissions? How it works?
Yeah, it is like identity access management. So based on which we are identifying the user and giving access accordingly. So if it is of admin role, we can give certain properties, certain features to the associated with the admin role, so that other user role will not be able to modify that. And then the person who is having the admin role, they can delete the other instances as well, which is having user role or any other role, because admin role is having the highest priority. So we can create those IAM roles and assign it to instances.
So CloudWatch, have you used it?
CloudWatch. Actually, CloudWatch I haven't used. It actually, I think it watches the data, like what all executions is happening, what all logs and trails are being executed. So it monitors the data.
Okay. Do you know how to auto scale services and all? Scaling, upscaling, downscaling. How do you upscale and downscale your services?
Scale and downscale.
Basically, in the production, if your service is in production and if you have some issues like performance testing related something, you have to increase, upscale and downscale your service, right?
We can create multiple instances for that microservice based upon that. So there can be like two-way scaling, like vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. So whenever we have to like increase in the memory, increase of memory is required, and the size needs to be increased. So in that scenario, a vertical scaling will be helpful. And but in that, actually there can be a lot of load in one particular area. So so in that scenario, horizontal scaling can be helpful, where similar to that service there can be multiple instances of that service, so that loads get equally balanced. And with similar feature.
How you will do that in AWS? Scale up, scale down. Have you done for your services?
No, actually I haven't done. There was a separate team actually they were doing.
Okay, okay, no problem. Yeah. If I give you some
Hello. 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 Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I have a scenario. Can you write a code for me on the scenario?
Okay.
Can you please share your screen? We just want to check that string is it balanced or unbalanced string. Okay.
Okay.
So me send you in a chat. To balance. Balanced. So there are two string. You have two string of parentheses. Okay, braces, curly braces, and square braces. Okay, so these are parentheses.
Mhm.
So just want to see this. Okay, so if I pass a string of parentheses, I want to know this string is a balanced or unbalanced. So you can see the second one, right?
Yeah.
This is an unbalanced string, right?
Yeah.
Because it is closed before closing the braces. Square braces is closed before closing the braces, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is an unbalanced string. So can you write a function for me? Make sure you remember about the time complexity, space complexity, and all things.
Okay.
I want a better solution, basically.
Okay. Well, around region every characters, and then we'll store it in stack. Okay. And then after storing, we will pop the data and then check the existing data. Okay. I think you can do something like this.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So thanks for writing. I think, have you worked on Kafka or Elasticsearch? Any
Actually, they have a separate team
messaging
in
queue?
Wells Fargo. Actually,
Messaging queue. Okay.
yeah. So
So you are following the microservice concept, right?
yeah. I was following microservice.
That's all from my end. Okay. If you have any question, you can ask me. You still have 2 minutes.
Okay. So basically, what kind of project is being currently working upon in Happiest?
This for I cannot share the client detail basically,
No, not client
but we
detail,
have concept
normal
of
tech stack.
we have a concept of microservices
Okay.
where multiple tech stack is used to Node, Java, Python,
Okay.
and mostly cloud as like AWS we
Okay.
are using,
Okay.
and pops ups from functionality from the AWS, CloudWatch, ECS instance, and Datadog,
Okay.
monitoring. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this much tech stacks we have. Almost all people will get a chance to work on all these things.
Okay.
One, each team we have divided the services in a team where each team is handling multiple services.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of structure. We follow the agile always.
Okay. Great.
So yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Anything else?
Yeah. This much only as of now.
Oh, sure. It was nice talking to you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much
Same
for
here.
joining
Okay.
and
Thank you.
supporting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good day. Yeah.